Okay, I'd like to give an introduction to the first assignment for the posting and response. Discussion post and peer response 1, Chapter 2. There are two parts to the assignment, the discussion post and the peer response. Try to get these two terms straightened out. One is the discussion post where you're doing some original work, and one is the peer response. And I'll try to refer to them consistently throughout the course. Other professors might call them other things. The discussion post, 30 points, 300 to 400 words, must address all aspects of the prompt and include 3 academic references, one of which can be the textbook. And the other academic references, they should not be Wikipedia. They should not be popular websites. They can be academic websites. They can be a university website if a professor is writing about it, not a student paper. It cannot be a senior thesis from a university because those are not the same. That's just an assignment. That's not something that has been through peer review at the professional level. And we don't know what they got, what kind of grade they got on their paper. If it was an A, a B, a C, or they even failed it because it was inaccurate or plagiarized. We don't know that. So we want to have your references from the library or from a website from the library or a book from the library, and I would suggest that you go to the library and you find some books that will talk about these different theorists, perhaps, and you can use those as your other reference. The discussion post must be submitted in 3 ways. You copy and paste it in the discussion post, and then you attach it in the post drop box, and then you submit it to the Turnitin drop box. There are 3 different ways, and these are a little bit on the complicated side, and we do it this way because at first, we're working on getting our APA formatting down, and it's a lot easier to see in a Word document and to see exactly what you've done in a Word document. So I'm expecting these to be posted in a Word document first. Then after you've created your Word document, you can copy and paste it in the discussion post window. That's the one that your classmates are going to see. And then you attach it in the post drop box. And then you're going to submit it in the Turnitin drop box so I can see the familiarity to make sure you're not overusing quotations and that you are not copying it right out of a book or from a paper that was submitted previously or an assignment submitted previously from one of your classmates. The 3 submissions will not take much time. Let's assure that formatting will not be lost when you copy and paste. I've had several instances last semester or last year when I taught this course where students said it looked right when I had it when I first typed it, but then when I copy and pasted it, it came out wrong. And so we're going to try to fix that. Now let's go to Angel and let's go into week 1. And as we go into week 1, we will see that we have the discussion 1, chapter 2 instructions, which is the sheet we were just looking at. Then you have the discussion post and response forum 1. That's where you're going to cut and paste in there. And here's the prompt at the top. Doesn't have all the information as far as word length and so forth. You'll get that from the instructions, and that's why you look at the instructions. And then when you want to do a new post, you go over and you find where it says new post, and you click on there, and then you'll be able to copy and paste into there. And then you do save or submit. I forget what it says exactly, but then others will be able to see. You will not be able to see what other people have written until you have posted your own. I don't want students all copying each other or getting too many ideas from each other so they all look the same. I want you to do your own original research and then post it to the discussion forum. Also, you will notice the discussion drop box, and you click on there and you put your title and then attach. You will attach your Word document that you produced, and then you're going to upload that to the Dropbox and submit, of course. Back to week 1, and finally, you'll have the Turnitin post 1. And everybody's going to put it in there, and we'll be able to keep track of the integrity of what you've written and so forth. Make sure it's not fully copied off of a website or a textbook or from a peer, but you're doing original work and you're thinking through. The secret to Turnitin is to not be looking at anything while you type. You can paraphrase, not just changing a few words. That's not paraphrasing. What you need to do is understand what you're going to write about, think about it, do a draft, and then from your draft, go ahead and write what you're going to write. It's not that many words, but think it through, put it in your own words, show understanding as you present. And you'll get the hang of this as you go along. It's also important to know about APA, and you can see the APA Purdue OWL website as well as my Dr. Anderson's APA introduction. I recommend that you master that, and if you need to, get the APA manual for formatting. It's not that expensive. It's less than $30 from Amazon.com. And if that's new to you and that's going to be difficult, you might want to invest in the manual yourself. Back to the instructions. The peer response, after you've submitted, you look and see who else is submitted, and then you do the peer response. 100 to 150 words. Must address both your peer's post and the prompt. They might have given some anecdote or some support for what they learned from the theory. For instance, today the prompt is reflect on the role that examinations have on contemporary American education. Consider the role of standardized testing in the standards movement. No child left behind, and the SAT and ACT in college admissions. Well, the standards movements is like the TEKS, and so the American schools are very much into having a very organized, very structured education. No child left behind, SAT, ACT for college admissions, a lot of hoops to go through in order to be judged as being competent as individuals and as educational programs or state programs even to being effective. Now, compare and contrast the emphasis on examinations today with that of the imperial examination system during the Chinese Empire. Look at the prompt, what it says. It says, reflect on the role of examinations, consider the role of standardized testing in the standards movement, and so forth. Now, you're reflecting and you're examining. The task that you have is, in light of that, is compare and contrast the emphasis on examinations today with that of the imperial examination system during Chinese Empire. I want to see the major part of this, 200 words. Of the 300 to 400 words, I want at least 200 words comparing and contrasting the emphasis on examinations today with that of the imperial examination system during the Chinese Empire. I don't want you giving me 400, 350 words on examinations of what's wrong with examinations, what's wrong with the STAR, what's wrong with the SAT, and so forth. I want you to compare these testing systems and the standards with what was going on during the Chinese Empire and how Confucius would relate to these, and perhaps how Confucius would see these things. And so let's get some balance. Look all the time that don't get sidetracked and talk all about the STAR test and what's wrong with the STAR test or what it's like during the STAR test. Make sure that you're spending most of your energy comparing and contrast the emphasis on examinations today with that of the Chinese Empire. When you respond to your peer, they might have been off track. They might not have listened to what I'm talking about here. They might be doing something completely different. You make sure that you not only respond to them, but you respond to in regards to the compare and contrast that's mentioned here. You have written about it. You have your insights. You can share those with your peer as you do your response, and you might relate what they responded to some insight that you have, or something maybe that they missed, or something like that. So only 100 to 150 words, but make sure your emphasis not only addresses the prompt, the response of your peer, and if you don't like what they wrote, you can skip them and do someone else's. You can respond to someone else's. You will soon see who has had me before. You'll see people who've had me for 2 or 3 courses in the past have probably gotten used to me, and you'll pretty much figure them who they are out right away because they always follow APA formatting and so forth, and they always have good responses to these questions. Discussion post rubric. The discussion post, 30 points. The peer response is 5 points. These points add up. So make sure you get them in on time. My rubric, I have exceptional, better than average, average, poor, and failing. And these don't line up exactly like I would like them to. Let me fix these a little bit. Okay, now they're lining up a little bit better. I must have changed font or something. Notice that focus is 40% of the grade. Prompt is completely and clearly addressed. Completely and clearly. Those things that I mentioned and the introduction to the prompt are completely and clearly addressed. That will get you 12 points. The prompt is clearly addressed, yes, but not completely. Will get you a little bit less. The prompt is addressed, but not clearly, not completely. Prompt is sort of addressed and is sort of or not addressed. Would get 0 points, that'd be minus 12 points if you're just completely off topic. Grammar and mechanics, 20%, that is about 6 points. Okay, free of grammatical errors, errors in subject agreement, verb, adjective, so forth, all those things. About 6 points, the most you could lose on that is 6 points. If I see full of errors, grammatical, punctuation, word choice errors, you're going to lose your 6 points because excessive errors in grammar and or mechanical conventions distort or obscure writer's intended meaning. A poor, distracting number of grammatical errors, errors in subject verb agreement, verb and adjective forms, so forth, on through will lose you, you'll lose 5 points. Research. Consistently uses reliable, relevant, appropriate sources. Consistently and correctly cites sources both in text and parenthetically. Unfailingly uses appropriate documentation style, APA, complete absence of plagiarism, thoughtful, insightful synthesis of writer's idea, and info from sources. This is another 12 points of those 30. So this is very important. Look at what will get 0 points. Lacks sources or uses unreliable, irrelevant, inappropriate sources. I'll take off the 12 points if I don't like your references. Even if you use APA style, if I don't like the references, you're not going to get the points for this section. Missing citations or widespread errors citing sources in text or parenthetically. The in-text citations are missing, lose 12 points. Little or no evidence that writer understands how to use appropriate documentation style, APA. You'll lose 12 points for this assignment. Widespread and or intentional plagiarism. If I find that, you will lose 12 points for this section because the lack of any of these will mean that the research will get no points. So make sure that you master this right away, that you use your original work, your original ideas, and that you use APA style and you get good at using APA style right away. I'll have conferences with with students the second week of class for those who are having difficulty, and I will request other meetings with students who continue to have problems throughout the semester. If you have any questions about the assignment, about the intention of the prompt, please give me a call.